had a tummy tuck with muscle repair in May 2024. I am currently 16 weeks post-op, and today I am going to be answering some more frequently asked questions about the procedure as well as recovery. And yes, I am even going to answer the question about doing the deed. All right, let's go. When it comes to incision care, I really got lucky because my surgeon's protocol did not call for me to do a whole lot with my incision. I was pretty taped up straight from surgery, and that tape stayed on me for the first full week. When I returned to my plastic surgeon's office at my 1 week post-op visit, he removed the initial tape and then he put some more tape over my incision. And that tape remained on my incision until my 4 week post-op appointment. So I didn't have to do anything related to my incision and incision care for the first 4 weeks. I didn't have to worry about changing tape or anything like that. At my 4 week post-op appointment, my plastic surgeon removed the tape that he had placed on it at the 1 week post-op appointment. And then he told me to begin using some Scar Fade. This is a formula that they sell right in his office, and so I got a bottle of that, and I use this Scar Fade on my incision twice a day. And that was really all I did with my incision. I was very careful, especially when he pulled off the tape at the 4 week post-op appointment, to not really touch my incision. I didn't really rub myself down there like during showers or anything like that. I would always pat dry with the towel. So I was very careful about handling my incision because I didn't want to have any openings. I didn't want to have any wounds. It was to the point where at 6 weeks post-op, I still had some of the residue from the tape around my incision because I was really afraid to like rub it off. But finally I decided to go ahead and get the residue off, and so I used some coconut oil to gently massage it off of my incision, and that seemed to do the trick. It kept it moisturized, but it also worked off the tape residue. Other than that, that is really all I have done with my incision. It has healed beautifully. I think my plastic surgeon did a great job. He told me he was going to make it as low as possible. It's razor thin. He placed it very well, and I'm very glad that I didn't have to do a whole lot to it. One of the things that I didn't expect in recovery was that I would be dry on my abdomen between my belly button and my incision. Nobody really talks about this. I thought I was ashy, and I kept taking lotion, and I would lather the lotion on, and I'm trying to get rid of all this dryness. And you know, a couple hours later, I go to the bathroom or something like that, and I'm pulling my shirt up, and I'm dry again. I'm like, what is going on? Well, what I found out is that when they perform the surgery and they're cutting through that skin, they're cutting through like the oil glands. And so you tend to dry out in that area. And so I was, in vain putting on all this lotion thinking that I was just ashy. And no, I was simply dry because they had cut through my oil glands. Now that has resolved eventually. I'm at this point, I can put on lotion and I remain moisturized. But those first few weeks, I would probably say somewhere between the first week and the 6th, 7th week, somewhere around there. Yeah, I just stayed dry all the time in that area. And that was one thing that people don't talk about and that I didn't expect. So I was released to all exercise at the 6 week post-op mark. I did 2 days of walking, and then I went right back into running and strength training. At this point, I am 16 weeks post-op, so basically 4 months. I still do not do floor core workouts. It feels like I have a steel rod running through the middle of my abdomen. So imagine laying on the floor and trying to do a sit-up, and you have a steel rod running through the middle of your abdomen. So I haven't tried to do any type of floor core work. Now what I have found is that standing core work does not aggravate my muscle repair. So I have been doing a lot of standing core workouts where I can bend like this and I can bend like this, but I'm not really on the floor trying to do a full-fledged sit-up where I'm rounding my back and really engaging those core muscles like that. So that has been very helpful to find out that I can actually do standing core and it doesn't aggravate my muscles. I still have a difficult time with lifting heavy weights over my head. So I like the barbell exercise where you lift like this and you're lowering behind your head. And I still have difficulty performing that move, even at 4 months and even with no additional weights on the barbell. It's just something about lifting it over my head that kind of still makes me uncomfortable in my core area. I can lift some weights though over my head. So the other day I was doing some arm workouts. I had a 25-pound plate and I was doing this move where I was lifting it and lowering it over my head. I could lift it just fine, but I could feel the pulling in my abdomen. I could just tell that I was really tight. There was no give there. So as I was doing this, it was kind of like, I'm stretching myself and I could feel myself stretching in that lower abdomen area because there's just really no give. And so again, it wasn't painful, it wasn't uncomfortable, I could just really feel it. And so I am still just kind of taking my time with that part of exercise, with lifting weights, and just kind of going real slow in terms of building up the amount of weights that I can lift. But beyond that, everything else has been fine. I've been able to do other exercises. My main thing was getting back to running. I knew that I had a marathon coming up right after the tummy tuck surgery and I needed to train for that. So getting back into running shape after this 6-week recovery period hasn't been as difficult as I thought it would be. Now those first couple of weeks were really challenging. I felt really heavy. My legs felt really heavy. I didn't feel really strong because I sat around for 6 weeks. But it didn't take me very long to get back into to get my endurance back, to get my strength back in my legs. It just really didn't take long at all. I just kind of had to push through it. I had to push through that feeling of being heavy and out of shape to really get back the gains that I thought that I had lost. So the diet that I follow post tummy tuck is the same diet that I was following pre tummy tuck. It's the diet that helped me to lose 70 pounds in 9 months. And I just really kind of eat cleanish, what I call cleanish. I try to eat whole, unprocessed foods most of the time. Now I do have periods where I'll eat certain things that aren't very clean, but I tend to count macros. And so as long as it fits within my macro goals for the day, I'm getting in my protein, I'm limiting my carbs, I'm limiting my fat, then I'm okay. And I can have a treat every now and again. I do tend to stay away still from processed sugar. Every now and again, I'll have to have some sugar simply because I am training for a marathon. I'm doing a lot of running. I need some sugar in my body when I'm running and I'm expending that energy. But I tend to, typically stay away from eating it on a regular basis. So it's kind of the same diet that I was following pre-tummy tuck. I have actually lost 10 pounds since the tummy tuck surgery. And it wasn't by choice. It wasn't because I was dieting trying to lose it. I'm just doing a lot of running and expending a lot of calories right now. And because my diet is pretty clean-ish, then I've lost an additional 10 pounds. So right now I am actually trying to hold steady. I'm trying to maintain. I actually am going to ramp up my mileage that I am running each week as I train for this marathon. So I am going to have to be diligent about making sure that I'm getting in enough calories, that I'm getting in enough nutrients so that I can actually maintain and not lose any more weight. So FDL, or fleur de leis, is a tummy tuck technique where they give you an additional vertical incision down the middle of your abdomen as well as the horizontal incision. And the reason why they do that is because if you have loose skin above your belly button, it's typically hard to pull that down flat enough. And so they give you a vertical cut, and then they pull you this way. So they're also tightening you this way, as well as pulling down the abdomen skin. And so my plastic surgeon did talk to me about the FDL technique, but then he kind of like talked me out of it. And so what he said to me was, you already have a very slim figure, you have a slim waist, you want a natural look. I would recommend not doing the FDL, because what the FDL does is gives you the maximum tightness. If I snatch you this way, you're gonna be snatched. And so he was like, you know, if that's not the look you're going for, if you're going for a very natural look, I would recommend not doing the FDL. He said, but I will warn you, you will have some loose skin. And so the trade-off is you won't have the vertical incision, you won't have maximum tightness, so you won't have the snatch look that you don't want, but you will have some loose skin left. And so I do have some loose skin. I understood that that would be the trade-off. And I'm very happy with my result. He was quite right. I am very happy with my result, with that little bit of loose skin that I still have, and I'm very happy that I didn't go with the FDL. Now for others, you know, there might be a recommendation that you go with the FDL, but for me, he said that I was kind of on the fence. I could go either way, but he really did talk me out of doing the FDL, and I'm very happy that he did. I do have other loose skin in other parts of my body. I have loose skin right here on my back where you have back rolls. I have loose skin here. I have loose skin on my thighs, my inner thighs. I have loose skin on my glutes. I have loose skin on my arms. That is all loose skin right there. I do not intend to have more loose skin removed. It just doesn't bother me enough to go back under the knife. And in fact, the loose skin around my abdomen didn't bother me from a looks perspective. Like, I looked fine in my clothes, and I wasn't really worried about wearing a bikini or anything like that. So I was perfectly fine from that regard. The reason why I actually ended up having the tummy tuck was because it was impacting my workouts. I felt like it was holding me back in my workouts. It would jiggle and jump out of my compression pants, and I'm always pulling up my compression pants, trying to get my compression pants to stay up. I would do planks and it would fall down out of my pants, and so it was just really starting to impact my workouts. And so that is the reason why I had the tummy tuck, and it's the reason why I didn't really touch anything else. So I don't intend to have additional skin removed, as long as it's not a medical necessity, as long as it's not impacting my workouts. I am perfectly fine with the way it looks. I'm perfectly fine with the way I look, and I don't intend to have more skin removed. So I didn't really tell a lot of people that I was having the tummy tuck surgery. When I got time off work, I simply told my supervisor I was having surgery and needed 3 weeks off, and I had my job duties covered. I got my doctor to write a note that just basically said just that. It was on plain letterhead. Now, he probably could have Googled the doctor's name and figured out what I was having, but beyond that, you couldn't tell from the note that he wrote what I was having. It just simply said that I was having surgery. So I didn't disclose what specifically I was having at work. I did tell my team that I was having surgery. Again, didn't tell them what kind of surgery I was having, just simply said, hey, I'm having surgery. I'm gonna be out for 3 weeks. So people were just really more concerned than anything, but I didn't disclose to them exactly what I was having. I did tell my mother and my sister about 2 to 3 weeks before surgery, just as an FYI, simply because I didn't want something to happen to me during surgery and then they'd be surprised, like, oh, I didn't even know she was having it. And so I did tell them just as an FYI. It wasn't a conversation. I just simply said, hey, by the way, I'm having tummy tuck surgery on this day, wish me luck. And that was really kind of the end of the conversation. We did not discuss it whatsoever. Now, I did have a conversation with my husband about it, of course, because he was, he had to be on board. He had to be supportive. I think a little piece of me wanted him to talk me out of it, but, he was very supportive of it because of the reason why I wanted to have it removed. And so I did talk to him extensively about it, and he encouraged me to go forward with it. I told my son, who is 13 years old, I told him a couple of weeks before the surgery, simply because he was gonna go to school and I was gonna be home and I was gonna be normal. He was gonna come home from school that day and I was gonna be laid up on the sofa for 3 weeks. And so I felt the need to tell him, just so he would know that A, I'm gonna have surgery, and B, I'm gonna be okay. When you get home, I might be kind of out of it. I might not, I might be laying around for 3 weeks, but I'm gonna be okay. So I did tell him a couple of weeks before. Other than that, I didn't tell anyone. I'm very glad that I did it that way, to be honest. It just really kind of took the pressure off. You always have in your mind, is something gonna go wrong? And I just really didn't want to disclose to a lot of people what I was doing. And so I'm very glad that I went about it the way that I went about it. So my plastic surgeon said no activity for 6 weeks. His nurse said no activity for 6 weeks. And so we were gonna hold steady to 6 weeks. My husband was like, I don't wanna break anything. We're gonna hold steady for 6 weeks. Well, after about 2 weeks post-op, he went on a work trip and he was gone for a week. And when he came home, that whole 6 weeks waiting kind of went out the window. So yeah, somewhere between 3 and 4 weeks was the first time. And I will just say that it was standing up and very slowly. But other than that, it was completely fine. Like, I had no pain, it wasn't uncomfortable or anything like that. What I will say is that when the fireworks went off, that it was very tight around my lower abdomen area. And it wasn't painful, it wasn't uncomfortable, it was just like my muscles there seized up. And I just had to stop and just kind of let it subside, let it die down a little bit. And so just be prepared for that. What they tell you is that they want you to wait for exercise and those type of activities, simply because they don't want the blood to start pumping really hard through your abdomen area while you're trying to heal. It's apparently bad for the incision. That blood is pumping like this, across that incision while you've just been cut open and you're trying to heal. So that's the reason why they tell you to wait. But I will tell you that most people don't wait the full 6 weeks. The nurse even told us a story about having someone call her a couple of days afterwards, like, hey, is this okay? So, what I say is listen to your body, do what feels good, and leave it at that. All right, so if you found this information helpful, please take a moment, give the video a thumbs up. It would help me out so very much. And if you have not joined the community yet, but you're loving this type of content, please take a moment, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you here as part of our community so that I can continue to make more great content just like this, just for you. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.